I like that question. Why wouldn't you? Let's ask the audience. Why wouldn't you do this tomorrow? I'm not going to put anybody on the spot.
I'll play devil's advocate. I'm Scott Lawler with LP3. I'm going to pretend I'm a mission owner, and these crazy developers want to drop this brand new code that they worked on last week in my mission system that's got 3 9s and a 5, and our agency runs on it. And you want to drop it in without going through the waterfall testing process and verifying that it accepts all 150 different data types and nothing burps.
So you're being pushed right now. So, it sounds like a real situation.
So convince me why DevOps works for high availability, highly secure systems. Why should I trust it?
I like that.
Yeah.
That's good. I'm a troublemaker.
So do you want to know that your developer, who you have the utmost confidence in, but is still human, put a bug in the system last week? Do you want to know it this week, or do you want to know it in 3 years? Because it ain't going to get any better, and it isn't going to go away unless I can find it quickly.
Sure. And then resolve it, right? Because if it takes 5 years for us to do a deployment, no matter how that software was developed, if it's got that bug, it's going to take us 5 years to deploy the fix, right? And so I think that getting back to your point is, why wouldn't you automate all of that testing? I can automate integration of 150 different data types with my application. And if I can take that out of the hand of a human, right? Because what percentage of outages in your 5.9 environment are actually caused by humans as opposed to some automation? Every once in a while, you'll have automation go awry and you'll have a big outage because of it, right? But by and large, some significant portion of those outages are caused by human interaction. Let's take the human out of the testing loop and make that automated. Let's break that into smaller pieces so that we're testing individual components as we go through in a very automated way. And we've just built a CI/CD pipeline for delivering our code.
But you didn't answer his question. His question is availability. How are you going to ensure through the code that you're meeting his availability requirements?
Sure, because I'm going to have more reliable code because I have automated testing. How many times does an individual, so hold on, let's just for a moment, is an individual human tester going to be more reliable than an automated test?
Yes.
So they're going to make sure every time they do that checkbox, they're going to hit all 150 of those checks? Because I've seen them skip them over.
How do you know it's 150? It's based on the controls that are programmed into the code. What are the controls you're using to meet the availability of that software? And how are you showing him that you'll meet it?
So I think the conversation is about, by automating that test process and taking the human out of it, then I can build more reliable code. More reliable code in a production system is going to run more reliably, right? And have higher availability.
You didn't say what controls you were meeting. If that developer said, oh, that's a false positive, so he's going to push it forward and because he wants his code to get out there faster, you know, you do have humans in the loop, and they're the developers and the project managers.
I think this raises an interesting point. It's about code coverage and how many times have we seen systems only test the happy path? Mm-hmm. They don't have everything that they need to cover. And the consistency of automated testing doesn't mean a whole lot if you don't have the right tests written the right way. So I guess it comes back to how does that improve? How does DevOps improve on that?
I think you're absolutely right. And I think what we've identified is that we've moved the human liability from the QA tester to the person writing the test harness. So then in whether it's ITIL or whatever sort of philosophy you're taking, you have to have some sort of separation of duty, right? So that is where you come into programming paradigms where one person writes the code and another person writes the test, whether they're separate organizations or what have you. What have you guys seen for addressing some of your automated testing?
Actually, we've seen a lot of huge advances with our automated testing, and we've seen that we have fewer bugs, mm-hmm. and we're delivering MVPs like you just talked about, right, into operations. And we've taken our old legacy systems and we're trying to break them down into smaller microservices and delivering those as MVPs and creating the APIs for the connection into those, and those are the reliability and availability is how we've architected them, and whether we put them on a platform that's highly available or whether we built them in multiple availability zones in AWS, that all plays into how your availability and reliability, or mainly availability of that particular application. But automated testing is amazing. It really, I feel much better about the quality of the code that we're getting every time I see SonarQube and I look at the amount of technical debt that needs to be worked off for an application, and it's less than 10 days. I feel awesome, right? Or I see the findings from our Fortify scan, and I know that there are no critical findings in there, and I can look at all the high findings and the mediums and lows, right? Or every time we do even functional testing, we're trying to automate a lot of that testing now using our test tools, and it is actually increasing the quality of the code that we're deploying in many, many cases.